It's the 13th of June 1944. The Battle of Normandy is in full swing. Hundreds of thousands of men and thousands of machines have poured into the area ready to battle it out. The British 7th Armoured Division are at the tip of the spear that day, pushing south to encircle German forces in the city of Caen. Little did they know they were driving straight into the sights of one of the most famous German tank commanders of the war, Michael Wittmann. In the space of just 15 minutes, their column was set ablaze, fired on point blank by his Tiger I's dreaded 88mm L56 gun. It was a scene of utter devastation. The Desert Rats would lose 29 vehicles, including 10 tanks and 18 armoured vehicles. This is the story of the Villers-Bocage engagement. The days after D-Day saw the Allies pushing steadily inland. Normandy's fields and hedgerows turned into a claustrophobic battleground, perfect for defenders but slow and deadly for attackers. British intelligence believed they found a weak point between two panzer divisions. If the gap could be exploited, Caen might fall. Thus far, the city had eluded the British, proving to be a hard nut to crack, much to the annoyance of Montgomery, who had stated that Caen would fall within hours of the Allied landings. Supported by mechanised infantry, the force they brought to bear was impressive. Dozens of armoured vehicles, anti-tank guns, Cromwell tanks, and even the newly introduced 17-pounder equipped Firefly Shermans, with firepower superior to that of the Tiger I. The British meant business. At first, it almost seemed too easy. Facing only scattered resistance, the 22nd Armoured Brigade under Robert Looney Hind were able to roll straight into the narrow main streets of Villers-Bocage, almost unopposed. British commanders decided to take a tactical rest to evaluate the situation and plan their next move. In broad daylight, parked almost nose to tail in a long column hemmed in by trees and buildings. Concealed nearby is Wittmann's small force of Tigers, only a handful of which are operational. Convinced they must have seen him, he gives the order to charge the far superior force. In reality, the British were blissfully unaware of their presence. Wittmann's tank barreled towards the column, appearing onto the road amongst them. His first two shots brewing up a Cromwell and then a Firefly. The infantry scatter and the tank crews attempt to react. One by one, he slams HE shells into the parked up vehicles and equipment. The situation is rapidly becoming desperate for the Brits. So much so that a light Stuart reconnaissance tank maneuvers itself broadside across the road in an attempt to stop the rampage. Within seconds, the Stuart was no more. Wittmann then simply bulldozed the light tank out of the way to continue what he'd started, brewing up another Stuart on his way into town. Finally, he receives two hits from a Cromwell, but a quick-fire 75mm gun is little use. Wittmann's gunner fires once in return before continuing the hunt. Yet another Cromwell appears. It too would have an 88 slam into it, this time at point-blank range. This continued on for several more minutes, seeing several more tanks and armoured vehicles suffer the same fate. More Cromwells and even a Sherman command tank were added to the list. Briefly, Wittmann's Tiger faced another Firefly, receiving a hit but remaining operational. A small duel ensued, culminating in the Firefly appearing out of the smoke, dust and rubble, face to face with the Tiger, a fatal mistake. The Tiger fired and once again struck home. It appeared that nothing could stop them, until finally a rather feeble 6-pounder anti-tank gun immobilized the Tiger's tracks. Wittmann and his crew, now unable to move amongst the rapidly mobilizing British armour, decide to melt away into the Bocage, leaving the stricken but victorious Tiger abandoned. In 15 minutes, he had destroyed 29 vehicles and caused abject chaos in the British ranks. Wittmann's tactics that day would be repeated some days later. Call it fanaticism, unrealistic bravery, or stupidity. It would be the reason he is now buried at the Le Cam German cemetery. I covered this final battle, please see my Normandy playlist. Whatever you put it down to, the German propaganda machine was only too happy to cash in, painting Michael Wittmann as some immortal tank commander and thrusting the small town of Villers-Bocage into infamy for decades.